Our subject is a plant that dates back to prehistoric times, the extraordinary horsetail. Horsetail, as we know it today, used to be an 18-foot megalith fern that grew around 300 million years ago. Back then, the earth was covered in ferns, mosses, and trees towering so high that only the mighty redwoods today could come even close to their height. But the planet changed, and the flora and fauna that roamed the earth changed with it. Megaferns became smaller and smaller until they resembled grasses, and then we humans came along. While the other megafauna died off, they adapted to their environment and served us with their practical and medicinal applications. We usually think of horsetail as reeds that grow along the marshy and wet areas of the northern hemisphere, but in reality, the 25 varieties of horsetail are spread over every continent on Earth. Across the northern hemispheres, its hollow stems were used as a temporary patch for roofs and shelters. The hollow tubes insulated against the cold and wind, and the smooth stems acted as a watertight barrier against rain. And in the drier African savannas and bushveld, horsetail is still one of the main materials used to make permanent roofs for traditional hut houses. The tough exterior of horsetail is incredibly long-lasting, and they can protect homes for years before needing to be replaced. And speaking of hollow tubes, horsetail's use as a drinking straw is the earliest use of straws that we can date back to. Across the Americas, their aerated stems made fabulous flutes and whistles. The hard outer shell of the reed stems was ideal for polishing wood to a smooth surface, wooden carvings, the smooth inner layer of boats, the soles of sandals, and working surfaces. Horsetail was just as effective as steel wool to polish any wooden platform. After the use of iron came into existence, horsetail was the scouring tool of choice to clean iron pots, skillets, tools, and weapons. Hundreds, if not thousands, of years ago, horsetail was not at all the nightmare weed we see it as today. It was as much a utilitarian necessity as it was a medicinal staple. Hold on to your hats, because the list of horsetail's uses is a long one, and we're going to get into the science behind why it really worked in just a moment. Our forefathers might not have known exactly why horsetail was so effective in treating such a wide variety of conditions. They just knew it was so beneficial that it was ranked as one of the most extensively used medicinal plants of the ancient world. It was used to treat skeletal conditions like osteoporosis, arthritis, and brittle nails, and to promote bone healing in broken bones. Horsetail's slight diuretic effects were added to poultices and teas because it encouraged weakened kidneys to pass urine more effectively, induce sweating, and to relieve constipation. And just like we use certain diuretics today to reduce swelling from high blood pressure, it was used for the same reasons back then. The reed also had antibacterial properties that were applied to outward wounds like burns, scrapes, and cuts. When used in combination with other herbs, horsetail helps to reduce bacterial and viral infections in the respiratory tract, like sore throats and irritated nasal passages that came with colds and the seasonal flu. Hair, skin, and nails all benefited from horsetail too, and it wasn't just for women who wanted luscious tresses and glowing skin. Balding men rubbed infusions on their scalps to encourage hair growth. The invigorating effects it had on the skin, combined with the antibacterial components in horsetail, was excellent for teenage acne, skin rashes, and breakouts. Horsetail holds the title of the earliest use for the treatment of sexually transmitted diseases, specifically herpes. The people of South America made teas and bathed in horsetail-infused water to help manage the eruptions of genital warts. And one of the biggest killers in ancient times, gum disease, took nearly as many lives as malaria and tuberculosis did. Horsetail was there to help with that too. Heart health, hemorrhoids, ulcers, general inflammation, and asthma. It was so prevalently used that people added horsetail to just about any treatment. It had so many applications that it was just added automatically as a base for any tea or poultice, no matter what the condition was that they were treating. Every time horsetail enters into a clinical study, it just blows the results out of the water. Thankfully, scientists have isolated the reasons it worked so effectively in the past. For one, horsetail is made up of 25% silica in its dried weight. That would explain its effectiveness when applied to bones, skin, hair, and nails. Silica increases the structure in the bones that helps hold on to calcium, and it increases collagen absorption. Collagen is not just for cosmetics and skincare, and calcium doesn't just stop at your bones. Your teeth, nails, hair, and all of your vital organs need it. It's literally in every fiber that holds your body in place. And horsetail holds the highest natural concentrations of any plant on Earth. They even went so far as to add it to nail polish. And they found that it helped reduce the effects of nail psoriasis astoundingly well. As far as a treatment for kidney health and as a diuretic, we have concluded that the high levels of mineral salts and antioxidants are the reason it works so well to flush toxins from the body. One of the few things horsetail wasn't used for back in the day was for fungal infections. But recently, lab results indicated that the antimicrobial qualities were ideal for tackling fungal and bacterial infections. And finally, animal testing in mice concluded that horsetail had a very positive impact on bringing diabetic levels down significantly. The results even showed that it helped regenerate damaged pancreatic tissues that had deteriorated as a result of the disease. On the flip side, horsetail can counteract antiretroviral drugs. Also, it's got significant amounts of potassium. Potassium is a vital mineral for humans, but certain kidney conditions don't cope well with too much of it. And horsetail contains a compound called thiaminase, which could cause vitamin B1 deficiency if consumed in large quantities and over a prolonged period of time. So if those factors apply to you, bear them in mind if you are looking at horsetail as a natural supplement. To prepare horsetail, no matter which way you decide to ingest or apply it, it will have to be steeped in boiling water to release the nutrients and beneficial components. The tough outer layer needs to be broken to some degree to make steeping quicker and more effective. You can certainly add the whole stalks to a pot of boiling water, but that could take up to an hour to sufficiently release its contents. Luckily, you don't have to go to any extremes to break it up a little. Just apply some pressure with the flat end of a cup or a rolling pin to crack that hard shell. Most of what you need from horsetail is in the outer layer of the stalk and the fine leaves. It just needs a little encouragement to give you the goods. Let's start with outer applications for skin, wounds, and hair. Add your slightly crushed stalks to a pot of boiling water. If you're using it in a dried compound, 2 tablespoons for every cup of water will be sufficient. And for the freshly picked product, around half a cup of greenery for every cup and a half of water is enough. Reduce it down until about half of the water has boiled away. Let cool. For your skin, use a cotton ball dipped into the clear liquid and swab your skin with it. For hair, wash your hair in the horsetail concentrate and leave it in for about an hour before rinsing it out with regular shampoo. Wounds and rashes. If you're interested in using horsetail to dab on minor wounds, reduce it down to 1/4 of the water level and add it to beeswax or tallow. A few drops in a small tub will be enough. Otherwise, the salve might become a little too watery, so add a few drops at a time so that you don't overdo it and lose the creamy consistency that you want in a spreadable salve. Tea. For a cup of hot water, you'll need 1 teaspoon of dried leaves and stalks. And for the fresh greenery, you can use as much as a tablespoon of chopped horsetail. Let it steep for about 10 minutes. It should be ready once it's cooled off enough to drink comfortably. Mouthwashes. Mouthwashes and gargles are made exactly like tea. The only difference is that you might use twice as much horsetail per cup of water. In the kitchen, horsetail has a grassy taste. It's not an overwhelming profile and it can be quite bland on its own. So feel free to combine it with any of your favorite herbs or as an additive to an herbal tea. Horsetail is still added to soups and stews when food sources are scarce. Some of the harder shelled varieties that grow in drier climates won't be suitable for cooking, but the smaller varieties, especially the young shoots, can be cooked down, though even then it can take quite some time to become tender enough to eat. It might be a better option to strip the leaves from the stalks and use those to add to your pot instead. The brown bulbous flowers at the ends of the stems are much more tender and are great to use in stir-fries. The higher up on the stem you go, the more tender it will be and better for fresh eating and cooking. But as you go lower and closer to ground level, their stems get harder and more unpalatable. The small dark nodules that grow alongside the stem are edible too. It's a painstaking process to collect each individual bulb, but the effort is well worth it. They taste a lot like asparagus and can be fried up with garlic, butter, and salt, just like you would do with asparagus. And if you don't have it readily available, there is always the option to buy it online in the form of supplements, herbal extracts, and in its dried form. Horsetail's botanical name is Equisetum arvens, and given the wide range of reeds and grasses that grow alongside it, it's absolutely pivotal that you make completely sure that you have identified the right plant when you're out foraging. Seek out the specific variety that grows in your area, because they can come in all shapes and sizes. Those that grow in the northern hemisphere more closely resemble ferns with bushy, feathery strands canopying the tops of their jointed stems. Strains growing south of the equator tend to be thicker and not as leafy, more closely resembling river reeds. Propagating them in your garden is a cautionary endeavor. Horsetail has survived for 300 million years for good reason. Once they've set down their roots, horsetail is there to stay. They spread by growing new shoots along their root systems. No matter how much you try to dig up their roots, just a little sliver is enough to spread them even further. Some chemical treatments can reduce their numbers, but they are all incredibly harsh and dangerous. And even the strongest chemicals won't get rid of them completely. Because horsetail has one last superpower in store for us, it absorbs and cleans out even the harshest toxic spills and pollutants from the ground. Cases of European waterways and streams where sewage runoff and toxic waste dumping had been practiced for hundreds of years had lost more than 90% of their fish populations. But after just 5 years of introducing horsetail to the banks of those streams, fish and insect life return to those waterways. So if you were looking to get rid of them, the bad news is that most of your attempts will be futile. But on the bright side, you can't ask for a better ground and water sanitizer in nature than this prolific cleaner. But a well-watered and seasonally composted pot will do just fine to keep them from spreading to uncontrollable numbers. Horsetail just thrives from neglect. They just want a little more water than the average herb, but don't keep horsetail close to where your animals might accidentally graze on it. Though perfectly safe for human use, horsetail is highly toxic to animals. We hope horsetail stays around for a few million years more to heal us and our earth. So the next time you spy them growing alongside a stream, or even when you're fighting to keep them from taking over your garden, remember that horsetail has stood the test of time. It's supported mankind through every step since our very beginnings, and it's still here to keep us and our world healthy. It truly is the superhero we never knew we needed. The only question that remains is, when are you going to try the ancient and powerful horsetail? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this exploration into horsetail interesting, give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another exciting journey into the herbal world. Until next time, keep exploring the wonders of nature. Disclaimer: I am not a medical doctor. If you are on chronic medication, pregnant, or suffering from any health condition, please consult a medical professional. I am here to relay my own thoughts and opinions. My videos are entirely based on my own research and experiences.